Hi everyone. So we're back. We're gonna do another video. That's what we do. And today, our adventure takes us to the story about Shakespeare. We all learned about Shakespeare in school, right? Right. This story is from the book Conspiracy Theories, Top 20 Conspiracy Theories by Norman Storm. But before we get into this story, I ask everyone to do me a huge solid favor. You know what it is. You already know what I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask you guys to submit a scary story to my email address that I set up just for this. I'll post that link down in the description box. If you guys could do that, that'd be much appreciated. I seriously appreciate you guys. All right. So now let's get into today's story. To be or not to be, that is the question when it comes to William Shakespeare. He is the most well-known playwright of our age, but some believe that he did not exist, or, at the very least, did not author all of the works attributed to him. Doubt about Shakespeare's identity started growing around the late 19th century, but the theory has gone mainstream since then. The former artistic director of the Globe Theatre in London, which is a modern replica of Shakespeare's own theater that puts on plays, worked with a Shakespearean actor to publish a Declaration of Reasonable Doubt, in which they say that there is room for doubt about the identity of Shakespeare. People involved in this work or who signed off on its validity include the former LA Times art editor, an English professor at Washington State, and a social theory professor at Rutgers. I'm sure I said that wrong. Theorists believe that many pieces of evidence back them up, and what makes this discussion tricky is that William Shakespeare was so wrong to leave evidence of his life behind. He didn't sign almost any of his work, and the results he did sign show signatures so sloppy and illegible they're hard to make out as his at all. They haven't found any letters, poems, or plays that were actually written in Shakespeare's own hand, and his will makes no mention of plays or books or anything else that would say that the man was known as William Shakespeare. A balding businessman from Stratford was a writer. There needs to be more known about William Shakespeare's biography. The basic facts are that he was born, raised, and buried in Stratford upon Avon, a market town around 100 miles northwest of London. Stratford was known for slaughtering and marketing sheep, wool trading, and tanning. His father was a glover, a maker of gloves, and his mother was a member of the local gentry, people of good social position. They both signed their names with marks rather than signatures, indicating a lack of education, and there needs to be evidence that either of Shakespeare's daughters was literate. Those who believe Shakespeare did not author his works say that his background wasn't compatible with the type of person who would write the things he is said to have written. The person who wrote those books is said to have knowledge of court culture, politics, and sports, beloved by the aristocracy. I'm sure I said that one wrong too. We're going to keep going. Like lawn bowling, falconry, and tennis, believers of this theory say that the son of a glover was not likely to have experience with these things. Most theorists or anti-Stratfordians believe that William Shakespeare was a front or a pseudonym used to hide the real author or authors who could not or would not, for whatever reason, take credit for their work. There are many people who anti-Stratfordians say actually wrote Shakespeare's work, and here are a few of them. Christopher Marlowe. Christopher Marlowe, a playwright, wrote around the same time as Shakespeare. Proponents of the theory say that Christopher Marlowe didn't die in a brawl at the end of May in 1593, and that this report was faked to protect Marlowe from being imprisoned for atheism. People who believe in this theory, called Marlowites, think that Shakespeare was cited as the author of works Marlowe wrote to hide the truth that Marlowe was still alive. Edward de Vere. This vital man, the Earl of Oxford, and the Lord Great Chamberlain of England, was also a quarter poet. People believe that Edward de Vere could have been the actual author of Shakespeare's works because he had more of an intellectual background than Shakespeare did, with more experience in court and with poetry. Shakespeare's work seems to be written by a refined courtier with a good grasp on the intrigues that happen in a royal court, and people who believe Shakespeare did not write his works say that they didn't believe he had the necessary experience to pen works with such a feel to them. They also think that there are references in some of Shakespeare's plays that point to times in de Vere's life, and that de Vere was the actual author. William Stanley. Another important person and another Earl, William Stanley is seen as a contender for several reasons, one of which could seem very simple: his initials. Stanley was the sixth Earl of Derby, which would make him well educated and familiar with the finery of court life. He also owned his own theater company and had a plain background. Another point of interest is that he was known to call himself Will and sign things with that last name, something that William Shakespeare was known to do. While almost everyone can agree that the works attributed to William Shakespeare stand the test of time as masterful works of art, some people do not agree that it was, in fact, William Shakespeare who penned them. And that is the end of today's story, guys. So what do you guys think? Do you think Shakespeare was like a real guy, or do you think that somebody else wrote them and used him as like a stage name? Like that's what I was saying anyways. It was like there's a lot of authors that do that nowadays. They don't use their real name. They'll use like a stage name or whatever the fuck they call it. But you know, and that's just to protect their identity, right? Because we all know how invasive media is. So, I mean, I understand that. Anyways, this is another one of those stories that I am on the fence about. I really am. Because you grow up hearing about him and reading his works, and then you hear a story like this, right? And honestly though, I can believe he had a stage name. I think that there was somebody that was actually William Shakespeare. Maybe William Shakespeare wasn't the man, right? Maybe it was somebody else that used the name William Shakespeare. You know, do you think that it was any of the people, what was it, three people? One, two, three. Yep, do you think it was either Christopher Marlowe, Edward de Vere, or William Stanley? Now, I'm going to bet on William Stanley just because of the initial thing. His name was actually William. Some people will just change their last name, so I can see that. Well, anyways, what do you guys think? Comment down below. And on that note, our adventure ends here. I'm so glad you guys joined me on this adventure. If you guys like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you guys want to see more videos like this right here, subscribe. And as always, I appreciate you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!